Hey everybody, welcome back. This is episode 9 of Brain Power. I'm your host, Bowen, and today we're going to be covering another article written by David Johnston, this one focusing on the Morpheus MOR Tokenomics, or tokenomics, if you will. This is an important episode and an important article because a lot of the questions that I get from community members are with regard to the token and the tokenomics. Obviously, with any project built on top of crypto rails, the tokenomics are extremely important because it is the financial incentive and driving factor of the financial incentives within the project and the ecosystem. So this is an awesome article that David decided to write to kind of highlight the thought process behind the tokenomics that the original authors of the white paper basically put out there when they issued the white paper, and now the community is working together to build, and how it compares to the tokenomics of Bitcoin and Ethereum, obviously with those two being the largest and really most established blue chip crypto projects. With that being said, let's dive into the article. MOR Tokenomics Explained.
I'm trying to free your mind, but I can only show you the door. You're the one that has to walk through it.
You're listening to Brain Power.
A little TLDR before we get into the actual article itself. There's 4 main points that are kind of the takeaways from this article. The first is the scarcity of Bitcoin and the long-term incentives of Ethereum, and understanding those two things. The fact that the MOR token has a simple hard cap of 42 million tokens and recycled block rewards that will last approximately 256 years, actually even slightly longer than that technically. The utility of the MOR token itself in providing smart agent builders with capital, code, and compute, and that token value equals Lindy effect times network effect, or Metcalfe's law. Introduction. Strong token economics act as the foundation for all truly great crypto projects. No matter how much utility a project has, if the token supply is not scarce, predictable, and transparent, it will have weak property rights at its core. Conversely, those projects with real scarcity, long-term predictability, and clear transparency offer a strong starting point to build lasting value. Let's examine the 2 most successful examples, Bitcoin and Ethereum. Looking not only at their differences, but more importantly, their common underlying principles. Then deep dive into the MOR tokenomics model and how it synthesizes Bitcoin's unwavering scarcity with Ethereum's dynamic utility, creating a 3rd-generation framework for designing long-term value aggregation. Bitcoin token economics. Everyone knows the classic supply curve of Bitcoin, which emitted half the supply in the first 4 years, half that amount in the second 4 years, and so on and so forth until the year 2140. At that time, new Bitcoin emissions will finally reach 0, and a total of 21 million Bitcoins will have been reached. Next, let's look at key categories of supply limit. Who receives the new token emissions, the length of the emission curve, the utility of the coin itself, and its long-term assumptions. Bitcoin has a supply limit hard cap of 21 million Bitcoin. New token recipients, all Bitcoin emitted to miners via proof of work. Emissions curve, 50 Bitcoin per block, halvening every 4 years, 0 by approximately the year 2140. Utility of Bitcoin, digital gold, permissionless value transfer. Long-term assumption, fees replace rewards to secure the network. This patient approach to emitting Bitcoin over 131 years creates an extremely broad discovery period for people to learn about Bitcoin and the time for them to decide on earning or buying some. People finding Bitcoin in 2017 would still be early in the 131-year process, even though the project had been around for 8 years already. On the flip side, let's take a look at Ethereum token economics. The supply curve of Ethereum is similar, though more heavily weighted towards the beginning due to the crowd sale of the initial Ethereum supply to capital contributors, an airdrop to ETH coders and the foundation, and a heavier mining reward in the early years. This led to ETH reaching its peak supply by late 2022, only 8 years after its initial supply genesis in 2014. Next, let's look at key categories of supply limit, who receives the new token emissions, the length of the emission curve, and the utility of the coin itself, as well as its long-term assumptions for Ethereum. Supply limit. Ethereum supply peaked at approximately 120.5 million ETH in late 2022. New token recipients. Currently, approximately 475,000 ETH per year go to validators. In the past, that distribution was to coders, the Ethereum Foundation, and miners. Emissions curve. The current inflation rate for Ethereum is approximately 1% and seemingly declining over time. There's actually even points during which the Ethereum emissions curve goes negative into a deflationary environment. Utility of ETH. ETH is used as gas for smart contracts, which enables stablecoins, DeFi, DePIN, and other decentralized applications that are able to be reached via smart contract. Long-term assumptions. The long-term assumption for Ethereum is that fee burning reduces the supply to create scarcity. Similar outcomes for the inflation of Bitcoin and Ethereum. Despite different approaches to rewarding emissions, both Bitcoin and Ethereum are reaching a point of equilibrium in their emissions of new tokens. New tokens flowing into supply are now below 1% annually for both projects. Ethereum typically has a slightly lower inflation due to the introduction of a burning mechanism. I would submit that these are the critical reasons why Bitcoin and Ethereum have been the most successful. They both provide clear methods to earning the token, fair long-term competition for emissions, and rewards flowing to those securing the value of their respective networks. This alignment of interests and using a free market competition filtered for those participants most interested and most able to contribute to the success of the projects. Couple this solid foundation with the fact that both projects have captured the strongest network effect for the utility they can offer to their users. Gold is an $18 trillion market for Bitcoin to absorb. Meanwhile, broadly defined, money, payments, and smart contract-based finance is an $80 trillion market for Ethereum to compete for market share within. Morpheus Tokenomics. Right away, we can see the similarities between Bitcoin and Morpheus's long-term supply curve. Like Bitcoin, it will take more than 4 years before the first half of the MOR token supply enters circulation. Since Morpheus used a fair launch, there are no pre-mined tokens, thus supply began from zero on February 8, 2024. The emissions rate began at 14,400 MOR per day. However, instead of a 4-year halving cycle like Bitcoin, emissions decreased by a smooth daily decay rate of 2.468994701 MOR each day. After 16 years, approximately the year 2040, the last of the 42 million MOR will be emitted into existence. This approach has attracted many compute providers, dozens of builders, hundreds of coders, and thousands of capital contributors. Each contributor type is openly competing every day to earn part of the scarce MOR token supply. Next, like Bitcoin and Ethereum, let's look at the categories of supply limit, who receives the new token emissions, the length of the emissions curve, the utility of the coin itself, and its long-term assumptions. Supply limit. MOR tokens have a hard cap of 42 million MOR by the year 2040. New token recipients. 24% of token emissions go to capital, code, compute, and builders, respectively. Meanwhile, 4% of the emissions go to the project's protection fund, which is protocol-owned liquidity. Emissions curve. Due to the tail emission structure of the project, based on 16-year epochs, there will be cycles of MOR token emissions for approximately 256 years, maintaining the 42 million hard cap of MOR supply the entire time. Utility of MOR. While MOR tokens can be used for a lot of things, the primary use case is staking so that smart agents can access capital, code, and compute, which allow them to operate. Long-term assumptions. The burning and locking cut supply, as well as fund rewards. Here, we begin to see a difference in Morpheus's tokenomics. Instead of selecting either block reward emissions one day reaching zero like Bitcoin, or potentially infinite supply like Ethereum, Morpheus is able to achieve both a hard cap on supply and never running out of block rewards to incentivize those contributing to the network. The white paper authors cleverly accomplished this by introducing the concept of a tail emission. This is done by adding two features to the tokenomics. First, a portion of the tokens from the protocol-owned liquidity are burned. Second, some of the tokens are recycled every 16 years into a renewed block reward. The chart below, included in the white paper, shows what the MOR supply curve may look like in the next 256 years. The main variable depends on how many MOR are burned and recycled, which will be determined over time based on how many tokens are bought out of circulation by the protocol-owned liquidity. In this way, everyone can easily know that the maximum supply of MOR will never exceed 42 million and will, in fact, be less than this cap due to the burn mechanism. Also, thanks to the recycling of MOR into future block rewards, the incentives for contributing to the network will never end. Morpheus similarities to Ethereum. While Morpheus is similar to Bitcoin in its supply curve, it's more similar to Ethereum when it comes to rewarding new token emissions. Instead of a single block reward given only to miners, Morpheus has 4 types of contributors that mirror the groups Ethereum historically rewarded, plus a protection fund to secure the network. Those 4 types of contributors are capital providers, code providers, compute providers, builders, and then once again, the protection fund. Let's talk about each. Capital providers. Those staking STETH, or in the future, Bitcoin, USDC, USDT, and SOL toward the protocol-owned liquidity, help bootstrap the protocol and build in a continuous demand sink for more. Code providers. These are developers who receive MOR for building and maintaining the smart contract, smart agent, node, and other reference implementations that serve as Morpheus's infrastructure. Compute providers. Compute providers can earn MOR by hosting distributed GPU resources, AI inference, and diffusion models, permissionlessly available through the compute router for MOR stakers. Builders. Emissions for agent builders, front-end creators, and interface builders. These can be startups or open source projects creating MOR-based agents and tools available to MOR stakers. The Protection Fund. This acts as a decentralized insurance pool, covering smart contract exploits, audits, and bug bounties to secure the network against attackers of all kinds. This structure to the MOR emissions creates incentives that reflect the objective and ultimate utility of Morpheus, namely as a platform to empower smart agent builders. All smart agents have a common need for capital, code, and compute. Capital for their deployment, code for their interoperability, and compute to provide inference for their operation. Just as Ethereum provides the EVM, solidity, and consensus to smart contract builders, Morpheus builders have a similar set of requirements: market size and network effect of smart agents. After understanding Morpheus's long-term supply curve and how the structure of its incentives provides a strong foundation, there are still 2 critical questions to answer when thinking about long-term value of MOR. First, how large is the total market for smart agents? For those following the development of smart agents closely, there is a broad consensus that the vast majority of on-chain transactions will be executed by agents in the future. This follows the same pattern we see in trading, where the majority of transactions are being done via trading bots. Coupling this with an expectation that most economic activity globally is moving on-chain, the 2 trends converge with an on-chain agentic economy being worth many trillions of dollars as these tools absorb most of traditional finance, payments, lending, and general day-to-day economic activity. Second, will Morpheus capture the largest network effect for this category? As for achieving the strongest network effect related to smart agents, Morpheus has by far the broadest set of projects building on its platform. This is thanks to taking a credibly neutral approach when it comes to blockchains, models, agents, and builders. In other words, Morpheus does not play favorites when it comes to agent frameworks, which blockchain someone wants to use, the types of capital, yield contributed, hardware used for compute, programming languages, and so on. Everyone is welcome to build on Morpheus. Everyone is welcome to contribute the way that they are best able to do so. Years of proven fundamentals, the Lindy effect, times network effect, Metcalfe's law. The last test of strong tokenomics are how long the fundamentals of property rights have been protected, the Lindy effect, and how strong the project's network effect, Metcalfe's law, is. On the years proven so far, Morpheus has passed the 1-year mark, and 100% of the tokens have been emitted according to the vision of the project and towards the intended contributor types. The Lindy effect is taking hold, and the idea of Morpheus as protecting a well-defined set of tokenomic principles is spreading among an ever larger number of people as they align their interests towards the project. Every article or podcast like this explains the tokenomics of Morpheus to a new set of people, and every new MOR fairly earned locks in the model and principles more strongly. Each contributor group is protective of maintaining their emissions. This creates a neutral check and balance against any changes to these fundamentals and distributes power among many people. In short, the longer Morpheus becomes provably more scarce according to the expected supply curve, the greater the credibility grows. Bitcoin and Ethereum both faced early challenges and schisms around their core utility and principles. Morpheus may well face those challenges, but thus far, the project's free and open market principles have allowed all participants to build as they please with few limitations. Furthermore, the project is striving towards non-upgradable smart contracts, which will cement the project's tokenomics even further. This is likely after version 2 of the smart contracts has been delivered for each contributor type and the community reaches the Zion era. As for the network effects, Metcalfe's law, all 4 Morpheus contributor emission types are live in their version 1 forms and growing in the number of participants daily. If the Lindy effect is the gauge of a project's likelihood to survive, then the network effect, Metcalfe's law, is the multiplier that tells you the total value of the project. Bitcoin or Ethereum having strong property rights is great, but it's the hundreds of millions of users and the trillions of dollars worth of value being transacted that inform the value over time. One could argue that it was the Lindy effect offering strong property rights that attracted all the users and value to these projects. So certainly they are intertwined, but there are many examples of projects with strong Lindy effects, Litecoin and Monero being examples, that are only worth a tiny fraction of Bitcoin or Ethereum, and the difference is the size of their network effect. This analysis suggests a Pearson correlation coefficient is approximately 0.969, indicating a very strong positive linear correlation between YTV score and market cap. This suggests that as the product of years and value transacted increases, market cap tends to increase in a linear fashion across these projects. Hard forks and upgrades. While the project's tokenomics principles ought to be solid and unchanging, the method for coding up and achieving those principles ought to be upgraded as needed. The largest improvement made to the Morpheus tokenomics has been adding time as a factor to the calculation of MOR emissions. All contributors willing to receive their MOR tokens in the future now receive a power factor that increases their rewards the longer they lock them up into the future. The average time lock placed by contributors on their MOR rewards is now over 3 years across the capital and coding buckets where it has been fully implemented. The longer the time lock, the higher the portion of the MOR emissions the contributor earns. This has proven a powerful filter for those willing to diamond hand their tokens into the future. Many people wish this feature had existed in the early days of Bitcoin and Ethereum, as those who sold early now understand they would have been much better off holding these strong assets longer. An example of coming improvements is that just because Morpheus started with STETH as the sole yield source for capital contributors, it does not mean it will or should remain so. To honor the core principle of being credibly neutral, yield available from wrapped Bitcoin, USDC, and USDT are being added as options via Aave in version 2 of the capital contracts. This will enlarge the potential universe of capital contributors from 300 billion USD to over 2.5 trillion USD worth of crypto. Expect similar improvements in version 2 of compute, code, and builder subnets to expand the types of hardware, programming languages, and builders that can be supported by the Morpheus protocol. The larger the tent, the larger the community, and thus, the stronger the network effect of Morpheus will be. To be clear, any upgrade to the tokenomics should embrace the dual objectives of strengthening the Lindy effect and or enlarging the network effect. So more burning of MOR tokens and increasing scarcity is aligned with this as it strengthens the property rights and how likely the project is to survive for the long term. Also, adding more ways for contributors to add value, more chains, builders, coders, compute providers, models, agents, etc., aligns with this as it increases the number of people involved and the number of value transacted over the protocol. Conclusion. Morpheus is positioned as a third-generation tokenomics model, merging Bitcoin's strong scarcity with Ethereum's programmable utility. By tying emissions to productive ecosystem inputs, capital code, compute, and builders, it ensures that the token and the contributors share aligned incentives. The true test lies in whether smart agents can achieve mass adoption transforming MOR into the backbone of a decentralized agent economy. If successful, MOR can pioneer a new paradigm, tokens that are both scarce and indispensable. It's still very early on in the Morpheus journey. Inflation via token emissions are still high. The price will be very volatile. However, this is also the phase of highest opportunity for contributors to earn part of the MOR token supply, as they become ever more scarce with each passing day. Those who see the vision and are ready to roll up their sleeves to become part of the movement. Morpheus is 100% community built and open to everyone. Come and build the future of decentralized intelligence for yourself and for those you love. Author, David A. Johnston. I hope that these episodes of Brainpower covering articles published by community members are helpful. Some people just simply don't like to read, and that's totally fine. I've heard of other people using these podcast episodes as kind of a supplement to read along with. If that works for you, that is awesome. I hope you continue to do that. Ultimately, I just thought that this article was so fantastic because it answers a lot of the questions, really all of the questions from a token value perspective as to what the MOR token is, what it does, and how we as a community and those developing Morpheus as a protocol see the value accrual opportunities in the future. Thank you as always for listening. This is the part of the show that no content creator likes, but I have to do anyway. If you enjoy Brainpower and want to support us, please like and subscribe on whatever platform it is you're using to consume it, whether that be things like YouTube, Spotify, what have you. It really helps the channel grow. It really helps the channel and the show gain some more traction so that we can expand the Morpheus ecosystem. I really heavily appreciate it. If you would like to even take another step further to support Brainpower, check out the Brainpower Builder subnet on the Morpheus Builder subnet dashboard. There have been a handful of you that have staked to Brainpower. To you, I am very grateful. And those contributions will be used to help expand the reach of Brainpower. And also coming down the line, there will be incentives for stakers as well, so please keep an eye out for that. As always, I am Bowen, and I look forward to seeing you next week.
I'm trying to free your mind, but I can only show you the door. You're the one that has to walk through it.
You're listening to Brainpower.